Welcome to Game Changers Live from Miami, Florida. My name is Sergio Tigera. I'm your host. And each and every week, we bring you someone who has been a game changer in their field and who's touched the lives of thousands to get their perspective on their journey, their mindset, their struggles and successes so that we can inspire you on your journey. So let's get started right now. And welcome to Game Changers Live. My name is Sergio, coming to you from Miami, Florida, and you can catch us each and every week on every single platform that you listen to, whatever your favorite one is. And today, my guest is Steve Olsher. And Steve is an entrepreneur with over 30 years experience. He's the founder and editor-in-chief of Podcast Magazine. He's the creator of the New Media Summit, also host of the top-rated podcast, Reinvention Radio. He's an international keynote speaker as well as an in-demand strategic coach who helps businesses of all sizes leverage the power of new media to generate visibility, leads, and revenue on autopilot. What's up, Steve?
What's up, man? Appreciate you having me.
Yeah. So big fan of Steve. And if you've been on Clubhouse, you'll recognize Club Pod, which is one of the largest, if not the largest club in Clubhouse right now, where it's, completely focused on podcasters. And you got over 60,000 now, we said, as part of that club?
Yeah, so largest podcast specific club on Clubhouse. And yeah, just closing in on 60,000 members and followers right now, yeah.
And that's unbelievable because this really started, you jumped into Clubhouse maybe in December?
Yeah, December 14th was the day I set up the account, and then December 24th we started Club Pod. So yeah, not too long ago.
Well, kudos to you, my brother, because that's a tremendous following, and obviously for good reason. Podcasting has become a tremendous medium, especially during the pandemic, and just over time, it's growing and growing. And you founded Podcast Magazine, which is the leading magazine in that space. You featured a number of very high profile guests. Tell me a little bit about your journey and how you ended up where you are today.
Man, long story short, started out as a DJ, just loved music and played drums for a number of years, and then got into the world of DJing. Opened my own nightclub when I was 19, a non-alcoholic nightclub.
Nice.
and then got involved in the catalog world really early in the internet space. We launched a store on CompuServe's Electronic Mall in 1993. Wow. So that's how long I've been online. That company became liquor.com when we bought that domain in 98, and eventually built that and sold that to Barry Diller's IAC. And done a lot of real estate development over the years, and a lot of coaching and authoring and speakering and podcasting. And as you mentioned, Podcast Magazine we launched in 2020 was our first issue, early 2020, and now with Clubhouse, and lots of fun things going on, man. And just because we can, my wife is a funeral director and embalmer, and we are opening the first new funeral home here in San Diego. To be opened, full service mortuary to be opened in the last 60 years. So yeah, wow. It's, a few things going on.
That's quite a difference in careers. Fantastic. Well, that's good. It's always an in-demand, sector, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about podcasting and the growth of podcasting in the US, all over the world, and what you're seeing and how that's going towards the future.
Well, I mean, I think that we are all wanting to connect and hear each other's voices and those sort of things. So I mean, I don't see audio going anywhere anytime soon. There's, of course, ebbs and flows in any industry. Podcasting, of course, has come into favor. But now so has social audio, right? So I think that we have the opportunity to do things with social audio that we couldn't do with podcasting. So podcasting has its place.
A bit more the social audio and what that is for people that aren't sure of what social audio is.
So social audio or drop-in audio or platforms like Clubhouse or Twitter Spaces, or Facebook's got a platform coming out, and it basically just gives people the opportunity to have real-time audio-only conversations. And the best way to put it is it's just like a global radio station, so to speak, or a global radio platform, so to speak, with lots of individual conversations going on about all kinds of different subjects. And so it's very two-way in terms of you can actually be a part of that conversation when you are on one of those platforms versus podcasting, which is a very one-way platform. We put something out and you listen to it, and that's just a very different experience. And I think there's a place for both because you have evergreen. Just the beautiful part about podcasting is that it is evergreen and you can access those episodes from anywhere at any time on your preferred device. And then with social audio, it's kind of more FOMO, real time. If you're not there, you kind of miss it, or at least you can't be a part of it. So I think the two
Right.
sit nicely side by side.
Yeah, and as the social media, sorry, the social audio, the way I think about it is it's like calling into a radio station or a podcast that you can interact with the host and the people on stage, and it provides a tremendous networking opportunity because I've seen, and you can probably attest to this, that the 7 degrees of separation have shrunken down to about 1, right? Because you can be on
Yeah.
the stage with with Grant Cardone or whoever else. Your favorite authors are just there, and you can ask them questions, get to know each other, and it's a great way to connect going forward.
Yeah, for sure. And look, there are obviously there's going to be some folks who are going to say it can work and it's going to have legs and it's going to be here forever. And there's other folks who are going to say, this is just a fad and it's going to go away. I don't think anyone really knows, but I do know that at the end of the day, it's the birth of a new industry. And anytime you have a new industry coming online, you're going to have some folks who absolutely love it and others who just don't. But I think I think in the long run, it's pretty compelling in terms of what social audio or drop-in audio brings to the table. And so look, it remains to be seen, but pretty interesting at the end of the day.
Yeah, and the other thing that's great about social audio in general is that since there is no video, you don't have to get dressed up. You can, I think a lot of people in Clubhouse are either, cooking or walking the dog, or there's even showering, doing different things and listening and adding value, which makes it pretty accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
So when we look at podcasting, I, I've been in the game for about a year, just over a year. You've been in this game for a long time. It is the podcasting medium for someone who's looking to build their brand, whatever they might do. I see podcasting as such a valuable marketing tool. Whether you make money with it or not, it is a tremendous branding tool,
Yeah.
right? And I think we're seeing a lot more of that. People taking to podcasting. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, to me, podcasting is a tremendous medium. I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. I think it's a great place for a brand to live and to have interesting conversations with their with their tribe, with the people who are their fans or people who should be their fans. I also think that podcasting, when done right, I mean, is a pretty tough platform, pretty tough medium to beat in terms of generating highly targeted leads and being able to generate revenue. So, from my perspective, I honestly think everyone should have a podcast, whether you're an individual who just has a subject that you want to talk about and you just really enjoy talking about, or if you're a brand that's looking for more visibility and you're looking for the opportunity to really establish yourself as that subject matter expert, so to speak. So yeah, I would just have a tough time arguing against a company starting a podcast because I think it makes perfect sense for every company to have one, and I think it makes perfect sense for every person to have one because there's something that you're passionate about, and would just give you an opportunity to have some really interesting conversations around what you love.
That's right. And as personal, I call them kind of personal economies, right? As we grow into brands being individuals as brands, it's not so much your company anymore. So for example, I have my consulting company, Progress Partners, but now I created sergiotigera.com and then have Progress Partners beneath it and grow my brand as me. I think you're seeing a lot more people do that. and grow themselves. And as a way of doing that, podcasting is fantastic. The reason I host a room in the Club Pod, ecosystem on Clubhouse, and it's on podcasting, but really it's about personal growth and getting over some fears, because I think a lot of first timers on Clubhouse are afraid to chime in and talk because they might be afraid of, oh, well, I'm not an expert in this. Why, I don't have anything to say. Oh, well, what are they going to think about me? But when you podcast and you put it out there, you're being vulnerable a bit, right? And you're putting yourself out there, but you're growing every time. You're getting better and you're getting better and you're getting more confident. And so I love podcasting because it helps people grow as individuals.
Yeah, it does. I mean, because anytime you're communicating, either with yourself, right, in terms of you're just having a conversation about something that you love and puts fire in your soul, then you're learning how to be a better communicator. And then, of course, whenever you have someone on and you're actually having a conversation, you learn how to be a better communicator as well, right?
Yeah.
So,
Think on your feet.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ancillary benefits to having a show. Not the least of which, of course, is just organizing your thoughts, right, and learning how to put together an episode that has a logical beginning, middle, and end. And that's the way that we like to communicate as a whole, right? Is just having that logical beginning, middle, and an end. So it's I mean it's an interesting proposition, to say the least, to say, hey, I'm gonna start a podcast and I'm gonna do this on a weekly basis. But it's actually a really good exercise in discipline as well. So lots of benefits for it.
I always tell my clients and then other folks that ask me about the podcast, and I say, listen, if you're going to commit, and
Yeah.
you need to stick with it. I think that's the biggest thing, right? Because I think, what is the percentage of drop off? I think after like 24 episodes, like 75% of podcasts fail, or they just stop.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like
Or
90%. I mean, it's a massive.
90%,
Yeah, I mean, it's a
yeah, don't make
massive
it past their
number.
24th episode
Yeah,
or
it's
something like that.
well, even like 90% of podcasts don't make it past, I think, their ninth episode. Like, I mean,
Oh,
it's
wow.
yeah, I mean, it's even crazier than that.
Because I think we're always looking for um, validation, right? Let's say we put out the first few, and if we don't get enough likes and if we don't get enough subscribers, we kind of lose. We're like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. People don't like what I'm saying, et
Yeah,
cetera, et cetera. And I always tell them, listen, forget about the subscribers. Work on your craft, right? Each and every time you get on, do one little thing that makes your show a little bit better, 1% better every time, and do it for yourself, not to impress anybody else, and and so forth. I think it'll get traction that way.
sure,
Yeah.
sure.
So what tips would you offer somebody who's thinking about starting their podcast, but are a bit unsure, or maybe they're doubting themselves a bit, or they're not sure kind of where to start, what to buy, how
Mhm.
do I even get started with this?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, the first thing you wanna do is you wanna actually listen to other shows, right? I mean, you wanna make sure that this is something that you wanna do, right? So I'd start by just listening to shows that are of interest to you, right? I mean, that's number 1. Number 2, I would definitely make sure, that when you start heading down this path of starting your own show, that you're just really, really clear on the value that you bring to the table and what it is that you're gonna be talking about, and be really focused, right? Think about it in terms of who the listener is, and why they need to be listening to your show. How are they going to benefit from listening to your show, right? I mean, that's
Hmm.
the biggest miss that I think a lot of podcasters make, is they just don't even think about the listener, and they just start talking or rambling or whatever it is, and they don't give serious consideration to, okay, so what's the listener going to get out of this? How is it going to improve their life? How is it going to improve their business? And then, the third step is really to start thinking about, well, why am I doing the podcast, and how does it benefit my life, or how does it benefit my business? And so if you just start with those three action items, just there's more to it, but that's a great place to start for sure.
Yeah. And for those that are out there that already have podcasts, and are looking to monetize, what are the strategies that you would suggest? The one, two, three strategies that you would suggest that are most effective that you've found to work in terms of trying to
Oh,
monetize.
yeah, I mean, look, from a monetization standpoint, there's no hard or fast or easy way to just start seeing cash flowing into your
Yeah,
account. I mean, it can happen over time, but I would say that, for most of us, what you really want to start thinking about is you really want to start thinking about, okay, so number one, how does this podcast serve my business overall? How does it feed into my profit path, right? How does it lead people who don't know me to the conclusion of they need to be working with me, or they need to enroll or invest in a relevant product, program, or service, or they need to pay attention to the advertiser or the sponsor who is investing to basically be present here on this show. So sponsors, advertisers, that certainly can happen. Really hard for most folks to land sponsors or advertisers for their show. So the easiest thing to do that I have found from a monetization point, Sergio, is if you want to convert people from being passive listeners into being active prospects, bring someone on who has a real problem, someone who is your ideal candidate to become a client, right? Someone who is struggling with a particular area of their business. And on that podcast, help them solve whatever that problem is. And you then have the opportunity to monetize in two ways. Number one is a call to action from your show. You can say, hey, if you are finding yourself with a similar issue and you'd like me to help you solve for that issue, then set up a time and let's chat here and let me see what I can do to help you. That's
yeah,
number one. And then number two, after the episode, of course, you can go to that guest and you can say, hey, if you found this to be helpful, let's make this happen in real time. Let me actually come into your business and let me help you do X, Y, and Z. Or since we solve that, it opens up this new problem of this. And are you open to having a discussion about how I can help you solve that too?
yep. And the great thing about that approach is that, as any business person, if let's say you're a real estate agent and you interview someone, who's having trouble finding a home or whatever, that you worked with in the past, almost like a case study where you talk about their story and how you help them, that's going to then bring you more business. And again, you don't have to do, a whole video setup, right? It could be a very simple, microphone and recording
Sure.
unit, and that's it, right?
Yeah,
and
you
and
don't you
and
don't need to go nutso for sure.
yeah, even at the beginning, especially at the beginning, it's just like you said, it's solving people's problems and in a way that other people can relate and say, hey, I need I need that, I'm in the same spot.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
100%. 100%. And look, at the end of the day, this is why it's just so important to have clarity around what your profit path is, in terms of what happens when someone goes from I don't know who you are to I know who you are to I like who you are to it really looks like you're someone I want to get to know a lot better, and then shifting them into the sort of your goal ultimately is really to shift people from just being sort of that passive part of your community or being a passive listener in this case to being an active prospect and ultimately a loyal borderline fanatic fan follower and customer.
yeah. And like you said, there's no straight line to your victory, right? You may go down a path and see that, okay, I need to pivot. Maybe it's not landing in a certain way, and I can pivot and change up my show. You're not stuck with it, forever, right? And as long as you're out there trying and you're even if you're not at your best, you're being seen, you're being
Yeah.
heard, you're being out there, you're putting yourself out there. And that in itself is going to drive some business towards you as well.
I mean, it can, right? But again, you just have to make 100% sure that what you are doing in terms of, again, anytime you invest your time, your energy, or your resources into anything, you just got to be really clear on why you're doing it, and does it make sense based on what the other opportunities are, because at the end of the
Mhm.
day everything that you do has an opportunity cost.
That's right.
And so if you're doing something like I'm investing my time right now here on this interview, right? I love Sergio and what you're doing and appreciate everything that you're doing with Club Pod and everything else, right? So for me, it's a perfect investment. The ROI is exactly what I want. I'm investing in the relationship, and I'm investing in hopefully helping, the folks, who's listening to this. That's not always the case for some people, and you look at what you do, and the question is, what is your ROI, right? I mean, because you have an opportunity cost. You
Mhm.
cannot get that time back.
That's
And
right.
so if it's like, it's just like a science, if you think about physics, right? I mean, like two objects cannot occupy the same
The
physical
same
space
space.
at the same physical time at the same time. It's impossible to do that. So if I'm investing 20 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever it is into this interview, what else can I be doing with those 20 or 30 minutes? That's the same question you have to ask yourself
Yeah.
in terms of, if I'm investing this time, energy, resources into a podcast, as an example, what is my real opportunity cost? Or ultimately, does it provide the type of reward that I'm looking for?
And that's a great lesson that applies in everything, not just podcasting, right? But everything that
For
you
sure.
do throughout your day,
For
because the
sure.
days fly by. I don't know about you, but I mean, the days just
Yeah.
go by. And sometimes you look back and you say, well, I've been really busy, but what did I do? What did where did I move the needle towards, my priorities?
Yeah.
And so that's a fantastic lesson. So as you look back in your career, what was a game-changing moment for you where, kind of like the light bulb went off, or it changed the trajectory of the way your career, or the way you think? Was there a moment that you can recall, or a series of moments or things that happened where you really said, "Man, this is my purpose. Man, this is how this is what I love to do. This was a game changer for me." Was there a time
Yeah.
in your
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it's happened often. I mean, it certainly happened when I decided to start DJing. So I sold my drums to buy DJ equipment, right? I mean, like that was one of those, and I call those moments Yano moments. So it's like a YANO. It's a yes no moment, and
Okay,
it's really understanding sort of where you're standing, at that fork in the road, where yes leads you in one particular direction, and then of course no leads you in another direction, right?
sure.
So it's really a matter of just understanding when I'm faced with a Yano moment. Like it was a Yano moment saying yes to this interview. I mean, no, I don't want to do the interview, whatever. I got scheduled, this, that, and the other. Fine. Yes, I want to do this interview, and what'll be, right? So it's just that you standing there at the precipice of that yay no moment and just really making conscious choices about what it is that you're doing and taking back control of what it is that you say yes and no to, right? So for
Mhm.
me, I mean, I've had tons of those, whether it was getting married, right? I mean, that was the
That's
ultimate
a
yay
big
no
one.
moment, right? I mean, it was selling my drums to buy the DJ equipment. It was opening the nightclub. It was doing my first real estate deal. It was launching Podcast Magazine. It was starting Club Pod. Right? I mean, like all of those yay no moments have had meaningful impact um, on my life. And I'm not going to sit here and say that one was any more powerful or important or whatever than the other, because at the end of the day, as I look back, I can see how all the dots really do connect. And whether I said yes or I said no, there's value in each of those moments. But I guess in terms of the sort of the what the world looks at and goes, okay, that was a game changing moment. Certainly buying the liquor.com domain in 1998 for $7,500 was a yay no moment that I was glad I said yes to.
Yeah.
Uh, Getting married in 1997 was a yay no moment. I'm glad I said yes to. Having kids, of course, was moments I'm glad I said yes to. Um, and the reality is, there's been a lot of things that I said yes to that I should have said no to, that were game changing moments as well. Real estate deals gone bad, tech deals gone bad, right? I mean, there's just it kind of runs the gamut.
When you're talking about the Yano, I was picturing. Do you remember back in The Price is Right, that Plinko game where the disc starts falling down, and I guess depending on what side it falls, it leads to other things, and then you end up at some point in your life, all your decisions, add up. And it's funny, so it's those conscious choices. A lot of times we'll just quickly run through a decision without really stopping to think. Take a couple moments, really think it through, so that we're intentional about it. We're not just reacting; we're responding in a thoughtful way, right? That's moving us towards our goals and things.
Yeah, 100%.
So what's next for Podcast Magazine? Tell me a bit more about that. You've established a great team. It's a tremendous magazine. It's chock full of information. If you're an aspiring podcaster or you're an experienced podcaster, you've got some great guests on there. Tell me a bit about that team and what are your plans for the future for the magazine?
Yeah. Look, it's been really, really, really interesting for sure. The plan for the magazine was right out of the gate just to really get the content right, because we knew that if we got the content right, then everything else would fall into place. We wanted to get the look and the feel right. We wanted to get the content right. And so that really was step one. And again, just knowing that there was a place in the market to have sort of the Rolling Stone, if you will, of the world of podcasting, right? To be able to have that, I thought would be pretty fun. I thought that would be pretty compelling, and I really did feel like there was a tremendous opportunity for us to create something that focused on podcasts and podcast culture and the world of podcasting, and wasn't just all about podcasters, but really was geared a bit more towards podcast fans, and people,
Right.
and of course, podcasters are podcast fans as well. But just to really be able to have a deeper understanding of the world of podcasting and go deeper into the lives of the people that they hear on the microphone, but they don't really know who those people are. And so that was the goal, was really just to create that Rolling Stone or Sports Illustrated or Wired, if you will, for the world of podcasts. And we spent the first year or so really just getting the content right, getting the look and the feel right. And now that we're a year plus in, we'll start working and focusing more heavily on the monetization. So the future is a lot of what we've been doing, because I think a lot of the content and things that we've been doing, I think we've been doing a lot of things really, really well. So we'll stay the course.
I enjoy it because it does have a really appealing look and feel to it. It kind of takes me back to the days when I was a kid. I used to pick up like the Metal Edge, magazines and all that good stuff back when, pre-internet, right? Where it's just a lot of color and vibrance, a lot of great stories in there. So, you guys are doing a great job with that.
Appreciate it.
Upward and onward, my friend. Hey, congratulations on all your success on Podcast Magazine and all the great things you're doing on Clubhouse, connecting people in a huge way. Definitely a game changer in my book, my brother. And so keep it up, man. And we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Appreciate you.
Loved what you heard in today's episode of Game Changers. Please subscribe and rate us. The lessons and the stories in these podcasts are immensely valuable, so I invite you to share them with a friend who needs to hear it. You may end up being the game changer in their lives.